back to All Things Jira, and I'm back with another story. So today I have another creation story. This isn't a story about the creation of Earth or the early humans. This is the story of creation of the humans as we know them today. This is the Anunnaki creation story. Before I get into the story, make sure you like this video, subscribe to my channel, and please leave a comment. Originally on Earth, there only existed animals and the early man, like the ancient man or Neanderthals or cavemen or whatever you want to call them. About 445,000 years ago, gods came to the Earth. Now these gods were called the Anunnaki. The Anunnaki came from a planet called Nibiru. Supposedly, Nibiru only enters the Earth's orbit every 3,600 years. Nibiru is supposed to be much larger than Earth. Their atmosphere contains iron oxide, so all of their rivers and lakes were actually red. The atmosphere in Nibiru began to deteriorate, and it was becoming inhospitable for the people on that planet. They needed gold to restore their planet, but apparently gold was very rare on Nibiru. So they decided to go to other planets to try to find more gold. When they came to Earth, they also brought another race of aliens with them that they used as slaves. This alien race was called the Igigi. When the Anunnaki got to Earth, they established a mine settlement in Mesopotamia, and they called it Eridu. Now they used the igigi as slaves to work in the mines to mine gold for them. The Anunnaki that was over that mining settlement was named Enki. So apparently the igigi had been slaves for the Anunnaki for centuries, and they were tired of it, so they rebelled. Now the Anunnaki, they were much larger than the igigi and more powerful, so they were able to defeat the igigi, and they decimated their race. Because there were so few of the igigi left, they couldn't effectively mine for the Anunnaki any longer. Anu was the ruler of Nibiru, and he was also the father of Enki. He ordered Enki to genetically engineer another race of slaves to mine for them. So he wanted this new slave race to be intelligent and able to do multiple things at one time, but he also wanted them to be more subservient than the igigi were. So Enki went to work engineering this new slave race, and he tried many times. All the initial tries were failures. Some came out to look like monsters. They were incredibly strong. They were incredibly big, and they weren't as intelligent as he wanted them to be. Eventually, he decided to use some of the DNA from the Anunnaki and some DNA from the early humans that were already there on Earth. And with that, he created hybrids that they called Homo sapiens. And these are humans as we know them today. So the first human that was engineered by Enki, he was called Adamu, like Adam. These new humans were as intelligent as Anu and Enki wanted, and they were much smaller than the Anunnaki, so they felt like they were easier to control. These Homo sapiens, they worked in the mining settlements in Mesopotamia, and they mined gold for the Anunnaki, just like the igigi did before them. And because they were intelligent, they were able to be educated by the Anunnaki. The only problem with the new humans that they created was that they were sterile. So he would have to continue to engineer more humans in order to build up the human race. They re-engineered the Homo sapiens, and they were now able to reproduce. Human intelligence began to increase, but they also kept reproducing. So the Anunnaki told them that they were free to live wherever they wanted in Mesopotamia. They still had to work for the Anunnaki. They weren't supposed to reproduce as much as they were. So as long as they did not continue to reproduce at the great numbers they were able to live wherever they wanted. But because the humans kept reproducing, there were more and more of them. There began to be more humans than Anunnaki. So the Anunnaki began to kick them out of places. So it said that this is where the story of the Garden of Eden came from, and also the story of them being kicked out of the Garden of Eden. Because the humans continued to reproduce, they were kicked out of several places in Mesopotamia. They were forced to live outside of the cities, just in the wilderness. Some of the Anunnaki leaders began mating with the humans. And mating with the humans, they created another race called the Nephilim, or the giants. So because these Nephilim physically took after the Anunnaki, they were much bigger than the humans. So at this time, Enlil was in charge of Nibiru. He was the leader of Nibiru. Now Enlil was the son of Anu, and he was the brother of Enki. Enlil hated the fact that some of the Anunnaki were actually breeding with the humans, and he wanted it to stop. But he didn't really have a way to control that. There were so many humans at that point. Now, Nibiru was once again entering Earth's orbit for the first time in 3,600 years. Now, this time, because Nibiru is so much bigger than Earth, it started to affect the moon and the sun. It caused black spots on the surface of the sun, and on Earth, the temperature started to increase. The temperature on Earth started to increase and the ice cap started to melt. This is what eventually caused the Great Flood. Enlil knew that the flood was coming, and he decided to use this as a way to decrease the number of humans on Earth. So he left Earth and went back to Nibiru, and a lot of other Anunnaki went back as well. But many chose to stay here on Earth. Now, Enki was sympathetic to the humans because they were his creation. So he stayed. He instructed quite a few of his chosen humans to build boats so they could survive through the flood. Now, one family that he instructed to build a boat, the father's name was Zalsudra. He's also known as Noah or Noach. Now, the Anunnaki that decided to stay on Earth as well, they had to prepare for the flood too. The boat that Zalsudra was told to build was similar to what the Anunnaki used. I've also heard that they were in ships and they were hovering over the Earth as they watched the flood. So on top of the melting ice caps, there also came a great rain. Now, this is what led to the entire flood that lasted about 40 days. And like I said, the Anunnaki that stayed, they were in ships as well. And the chosen families that Enki chose, they were in ships and they all survived through this flood. Because he only chose certain families to build boats, most of the humans died. Now, when the water started to reside, of course, then there were not as many humans, and the Anunnaki began to rebuild. Now, as the Anunnaki rebuilt and taught the humans that were left, the humans again started to repopulate the Earth. Enki thought that they were doing quite well, so he decided to start educating these new humans again. They taught them architecture, mathematics, music, and writing. Overall, they were taught the Anunnaki way of life. Now, the Anunnaki also taught them how to set up governmental systems, and it was said that in the way they taught them to set up these systems, they made it so there was always someone with the Anunnaki bloodline that would be in power in every place on Earth. And these leaders would act as emissaries to the Anunnaki. The Anunnaki ordered the humans to construct temples they called ziggurats. And these were built based on the constellations. And they were supposed to be able to guide all the Anunnaki that left back to Earth, back to that part of Mesopotamia. So after all of the rebuilding and repopulation, centuries later, they all left the Earth and went back to Nibiru. So it's thought that once Nibiru comes back into the Earth's orbit, those Anunnaki will come back and reestablish their rule on Earth. I'm not sure where we're supposed to be in that timeline of 3,600 years. So what do you think about this story? Have you ever heard of the Anunnaki? Have you ever heard of the creation of the new humans, or the mix of alien DNA with human DNA to form modern day humans? Let me know what you think about the story in the comments below. Please like my video, subscribe to my channel, and please share. I will see you all again next Wednesday with another story.